Welcome to According to Sam, folks. This is episode 355. Thank you for joining me today. Hope you guys have had a good week. I got a lot to share with you guys. Going to pick up where we left off and what we've been talking about. If you've been following the podcast, if this is the first time watching the podcast, we're talking about the Jews. Or the Hebrews, or the Israelites. I want to get in the habit of distinguishing between the Hebrews and the Jews, because I think that's important as we go into more of this story and telling the story of the Jews who originated from the Hebrews is the story. And I want to pick up where we left off in the last podcast. I have a lot to share with you guys. A lot of people don't think that the ancient world has any relevance in, things that are happening today and their lives today. That stuff was thousands of years ago. And, it doesn't really relate to me in 2025. I'm a modern person, but there's so much. What I've tried to get you to understand on this podcast is that there's so much of the ancient world that is right in your face. So much of the ancient world that is happening behind the scenes that you don't really even understand. And it's very, very powerful stuff is what I've been trying to get people to understand. Like this symbol, this is the largest monument in the United States in our nation's capital. Obelisk. People call it an Egyptian obelisk, but the obelisk dates back to before the Egyptian Empire. This is a very old and ancient symbol, religious symbol is what this is, and it's our largest monument in our nation's capital. You'll find this same monument at the Vatican, in France, in England, in Argentina, on gravestones. You'll find this monument, the obelisk. What does it mean? Well, it represents very old and ancient mystical practices is what it does. You'll always find, or not always, but a lot of times find the obelisk with the dome at the Vatican. You'll see when you walk into the Vatican, you have the obelisk there, and then you have the dome. They're connected with one another. It is a phallic symbol representing the male phallus. The dome represents the female. This is very old craft, and this is all over our country, all over the United States. This is more about the streets there in Washington, D.C. If you go over to Washington, D.C. and you tour Washington, D.C., I mean, all of the monuments and iconography date back to the ancient world and date back to this ancient mystical cult system. If people don't know that the streets in Washington, D.C., that the White House is the point of a pentagram. The streets actually make a pentagram, but they say that it's not a pentagram because this one street right here is not connected. But if you look at the way the streets are the way they're designed in Washington, D.C. is with the pentagram. I've told you the pentagram represents the star Sirius, the dog star, which is a very important star in the ancient world. This stuff, look at the back of your dollar bill, with the pyramid, with the capstone being a single eye, the eye of Horus, Norvis Ora Secorium, the New World Order, all this stuff. The 13 stars shaped as a hexagram. All of this iconography, all of this dates back to the ancient world, and it is very prominent in our world today and very, very important. All this ancient mystery stuff and stuff that the Freemasons, I guess, but I mean, it's even bigger than the Freemasons. This is the occult mystery religion, and it goes back to the ancient world, to the time of Abram, when Abram was called out of this religious system. And I was explaining to you in the last podcast that Abram was Chaldean. Abram was from this is present day Iraq. This region is around the border of Kuwait and Iraq. This city of is a very old city. And all of this stuff that is on your money and the obelisk and all this stuff, worshiping the dog star, Sirius, all this stuff dates back to this period, to the ancient world. And this was the religious system that Abram was born into as a Chaldean, and everyone he knew practiced the mystery religions. This city that is just north of is called Uruk, and Uruk is where we get the name Iraq. Iraq was named after this city, which is a very old Mesopotamian city, a Sumerian city, Iraq. Babylon would be north of Baghdad. All of this system of this religious system that is being practiced today in the occult, in the hidden system, it's all started back in Mesopotamia, in this region that Abraham was called out of this religious system. This is when we read the passage in the last podcast where God makes contact with Abraham, and he tells him, come out of that religious system. He basically does that because he wants Abraham to embrace monotheism, to worship only him. Now, why did God only make himself, and make contact with Abram and called Abram out of that religious system? Why didn't God just, make himself known to everybody there in that region at that time and show that he's, God, and that he created the universe and everything? Because what would have happened if he would have done that, they would have just added God to the pantheon. They would have said, well, this God that is calling Abraham out of this religious system, if he would have appeared to everyone and shown himself to everyone, they just would have said, okay, so another God. They would have added him to the pantheon because they had a God for everything. They had hundreds of gods, different gods. Every one of these cities had a patron god, a god that was associated with the city. The patron god of is Nana. Nana was the patron god of We'll read a little bit of this. Nana Soon, or Nanar, Nana Soon, Sin, was a Mesopotamian moon god of wisdom. He's a male god, but they also had female gods in the pantheon. He's one of the oldest god in Mesopotamian pantheon. Is the first mention of the very dawn of writing in Sumer. So Nana was the patron god of This is the ziggurat of That would have dated back to the time of Abram. When he grew up, they probably would. This would have been the center of their culture, just like the Jewish temple is the center of Jewish culture. These ziggurats, all these different cities had not only. This is the ziggurat of another image of the ziggurat of This is when they first started excavating it in the early 1900s. This would have been the not only the religious center of the culture there in the Chaldean city of but every one of the cities in the surrounding area, all these cities had their own ziggurat that was dedicated to the patron god of their city. And this religious system that God is calling Abram out of, it was the focus of, this was their culture. This was their culture. So this is what the ziggurat probably would have looked like in Abraham's time. So the top, you can't see the top now. So Inanna, so this is a female goddess. She's the patron god of the city of Uruk. So Inanna, and I wanted to introduce you to Inanna because she's a very interesting god. Her title, her primary title is Queen of Heaven. Queen of Heaven is Inanna. She's a female goddess. She's part of the Anunnaki. Says that originally worshipped in Sumer, was known by the Akkadians, the Babylonians, the Assyrians as Ishtar. Inanna. So she's the patron saint of, or patron god of Uruk. Nana, who we were just looking at, is a male deity, was the patron god of Babylon, Marduk, all Anunnaki gods. Marduk was the patron. There's right here. Marduk, the patron deity of Babylon. Patron deity. So each one of these cities, they all had their own ziggurat, and they all had their own patron deity, but then they all worshiped all the deities. Like if you lived in and you were part of the cult of Nana, but Nana wasn't meeting your needs, and there was something that Ishtar, because Ishtar said maybe you wanted to have a baby, because Ishtar, Inanna, was the goddess of fertility. So maybe you wanted to have a baby, and you lived in and you were barren, you weren't able to get pregnant. So you would travel to Uruk, and you would meet with the priest of Inanna, offer a sacrifice to Inanna, because Inanna was the fertility goddess. You understand how this works? So they all had they lived in their individual cities, and they had their patron deity, but they would worship all the different gods. They were pantheistic. They were polytheistic. They worshiped many gods, and this is the religious system that God calls Abraham out of. He tells him to come to this land that I will show you, where I'm going to make you and your nation. Calls him to this area right here, which is present day Israel, and says, I'm going to make a nation out of you, and it's going to be a monotheistic nation. You're not going to worship any other gods. You're only going to worship me. I'm going to be your God. You're going to be my people. And this was the promise that God made to Abraham. And we read that scripture in the last podcast. This is the passage that Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz are talking about in that interview, which we'll watch again here in a moment. But this is Genesis 12, and God calls Abram. This is before he was Abraham, and God changed his name. God said to Abram, go forth from your country, from your people, and from your father's household, to a land that I will show you, the land that is currently Israel today. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who curse you. That's the important one right there. I will bless those who bless you. I will curse those who curse you. And all the people of the earth will be blessed to you, be blessed by you. So this was, Abram had already left at this time. He's in Haran. It says right here. So Abram, went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old and set out from Haran. So at this time, when God tells him to go to this land that he's going to show him, which is present day Israel, he was up here in Anatolia. This is just north of present day Syria. So he had already left So would be down here in Kuwait, and he had already gone up to Haran, and then God tells him to go to the land that I'm going to show you. And so he starts traveling down and goes. So this is the promise, and this is the promise that that God is making to Abram, and he ends up making a covenant with Abram, and that's where we left off in the last podcast. But before we get into that covenant, I want to play the clip of Ted Cruz again in the interview that he did with Tucker Carlson.
Growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of it, it says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my. You pull out the phone and use the
it's in Genesis. But so you're quoting a Bible phrase. You don't have context for it and you don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology? I'm confused. What does that even mean?
Tucker.
I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
Okay. Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we're commanded to support Israel. But number two,
hold on.
Hold
on. You're a senator and now you're throwing out theology, and I am a Christian and I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel?
We are commanded to support Israel. And what
does that mean, Israel?
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But hold on, define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding?
Define Israel.
This is a majority Christian country.
Define Israel? Do you not know what Israel is? That would be the country you've asked like 49 questions about.
So define Israel. And that's this is a huge issue. This is a huge issue that is going on right now. And that's why I am doing this podcast and doing this series of podcasts, because this is who is Israel? That's the question. That's the question. Yes, we see this passage in Genesis 12, and God says that I'm going to bless you and make you a great nation. I brought you out of earth for this specific reason. I brought you out of that polytheistic religious system for this specific reason. So I can be your one God, and then you can be my people, and I'm going to make you a great nation. Abraham, again, did not have any children at this time. He didn't have any children. He was barren. And so who is he talking about? Yes, he's talking about a great nation, but we played in the last podcast, or I went through all of these scripture in the last podcast, that he's making who's this nation? He tells you right here, all the land that you see, I will give to you and your offspring. Offspring. The great nation, Israel, is the offspring of Abraham. What is offspring? I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth, so that anyone who counts the dust, then your offspring will be counted. Go walk the length and the breadth of the land. So the land is and this promise is being made to Abraham and his offspring. His offspring is the nation. And if you don't know what offspring is, he says it right here. It's descendants. Offspring is descendants. I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you have done this and now withheld your son from me, that your only son, I will surely bless you and make your descendants, offspring, descendants, as numerous as the stars and the sky and the sand on the seashore. Your descendants will take possession of their cities and their enemies, of their enemies. And through your offspring, so he goes back to offspring here, descendants, and through your offspring, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. You're blessed. He also uses the word seed. Your seed, your offspring, you're all synonymous. So that's Israel, the people that are a descendant, offspring, the seed of Abraham. I mean, I don't understand how I can get any clearer than that. So the question becomes, are the people that are in Israel today, that the current state of Israel in 2025, is that the offspring of Abraham? Is that the seed of Abraham? Are they the descendants of Abraham? That's the question that we want to ask. Ted Cruz was also this week at this 45th annual Night of Honor that Pastor John Hagee in San Antonio. John Hagee is a very, I mean, he's old now. He looks like he's on his way out, but for decades This guy has been on the front lines of what people are calling now Christian Zionism. He's an evangelical Christian pastor, but he has the eschatology, the end times beliefs that Israel is very important. Like I was telling you, not only that, the temple is very important. And he has been one of the staunchest supporters of Israel, Christian ministers supporting Israel here in the United States. But he's not the only one. There is a lot of, huge Christian churches that have the exact same theology and eschatology as John Hagee. But John Hagee is this annual event where he honors Israel in San Antonio. Ted Cruz was at the event in this week, the 45th annual, and I want you to take a listen to what he says.
But I want to close with this as a Christian. Look, Pastor Hagee, the work that you have done, the work that CUFI has done to mobilize Christians across this country to stand with Israel, it is incredibly important. But I will tell you, there is a movement among Christians, particularly young Christians. The public polling numbers of support for Israel among young Christians is plummeting. And they're being spread lies. They're being spread lies, isolationist lies, that we should withdraw from the world because nobody wants to hurt us. But they're also being spread theological lies.
Theological lies.
They are being taught replacement theology, which is a lie that the promises God made to Israel and the people of Israel are somehow no longer good. They are no longer valid, that when God made a promise, he didn't mean the promise he made.
All right, so there's two different things going on here. First of all, there are people that are saying that the promises that God made to Israel are done, that they were when Jesus Christ came, he established the new covenant, and the church is the new covenant, and that the covenant that God made with Abraham that we read here in Genesis 12. Well, this isn't the covenant, but he just tells him that he's going to make a covenant with him and bless those, and this is a blessing, basically, is what he's telling Abraham here. We're going to get back into the covenant, the actual covenant, here in a moment, when they go through the ritual to make the covenant with God and Abraham. But yeah, so there are people that are saying that that covenant doesn't matter anymore. So that's not true. I mean, he says over and over again in the passages that we read over the last in the last podcast, is that this is an everlasting covenant that I make with you, that this covenant will be forever. He says it over and over again. Everlasting covenant. Where does it say? So that's not true, that the covenant with Abraham that can't be true. Because he says it over and over again. This is going to be an everlasting covenant. This covenant will last forever. So there are people that are saying that the covenant is over and that it is no more, and the promises that God made to Abraham are done with. And that part, Ted Cruz is right, that is not correct, because I can show you over and over again. I don't have time to go to those passages. He says over and over again, God says that this is an everlasting covenant. This covenant is going to be forever. But the people that are questioning are the people in Israel, the descendants, the inheritors of this covenant. Are they the offspring who inherit this covenant? Now, that is a sticking point, and that's what I want to flesh out, because I don't think I need to flesh out the part about the covenant being everlasting and a forever covenant. It's right there in the passage. You just have to go and look at it. It's a forever covenant. But the question of, are the people there that are inheriting this covenant, are they the people that God says are offspring, descendants, seed, over and over again? That's the question. So Ted Cruz is saying that there is a growing false theology growing in the Christian church here in America, and that the numbers show that many more Christians are not supporting Israel, and he's right about that. The numbers are staggering. The support for Israel among Christians is falling off a cliff. There's two different issues here, and I just wanted to break that down for you.
Isolationist lies that we should withdraw from the world because nobody wants to hurt us. But they're also being spread theological lies. They are being taught replacement theology, which is a lie that the promises God made to Israel and the people of Israel are somehow no longer good. They are no longer valid, that when God made a promise, he didn't mean the promise he made.
All right, so the other thing that I want to talk about here, too, is that the covenant had terms. There's terms in the covenant. It's just like any agreement, any contract, legal contract. There's terms. Yes. So yes, the promises that God made and the covenant that God made with Abraham and Abraham's descendants, it's still a valid covenant. It's definitely still a valid covenant because he says it's going to be an everlasting covenant. It's going to be a forever covenant. But the terms still apply. The terms of the covenant haven't changed. And what are the terms of the covenant? We talked about this in the last couple of podcasts. That I'll keep. These are the terms of the covenant. I'll keep you safe. I'll keep you fed. I'll keep you safe there in the land. But you have to keep your end of the bargain. You can't set up idols. You can't do witchcraft. You can't worship other gods. You got to keep my Sabbath. You have to bring sacrifices once a year. You have to keep my commandments. Mostly not setting up idols to other gods, not worshiping other gods. That's number one. Not doing witchcraft. These are the terms of the agreement. These are the terms of the covenant. Yes, the covenant still stands today. It's an everlasting covenant. It's forever covenant. That's clear. But the terms haven't changed. The terms are the same. The terms are the same. We read Leviticus in the last podcast. Leviticus 25. Punishment for disobedience. If you and I listen to me and carry out all these commands, if you reject my decrees and abhor my laws and fail to carry out my commands and violate my covenant, then I will do this to you. I will bring sudden terror, wasting diseases and fever. I will destroy your sight and sap your strength. You will plant seed in vain. This is my favorite part. You will plant seed in vain because your enemies will eat it. He tells them, if you don't keep my command, if you stay, these are the terms of the agreement. Yes, Ted Cruz, the agreement still stands. The agreement is everlasting and forever, but the terms are everlasting and forever as well. And the terms are, don't set up idols, don't do witchcraft, don't worship other gods, keep my Sabbath, and if you don't keep the terms, if you don't keep my covenant and you violate my covenant, these are the terms. He says, don't even plant food because your enemies will eat it. If you break my covenant and you don't keep the terms of the agreement, don't even plant food because your enemies will eat the food. I will set my face against you. So you will be defeated by your enemies. Those who hate you will rule over you. If you do not, these are the terms of the agreement. I'm sorry. So yes, the agreement, the covenant still stands. It's forever. It's for everlasting, but the terms still stand. The terms still stand. So we have two issues here that we need to talk about. We need to talk about the fact that are the people, yes, the covenant is everlasting. Yes, the covenant is forever and it stands, but we need to find out, are the people that are there in Israel right now that are saying that they are the inheritors of this covenant? Are they the descendants, the offspring of Abraham, the seed of Abraham? We have to clear that up. And then we have to clear up, are the people that are there in Israel right now, are they keeping the terms? Are they keeping the terms of the agreement? Listen to more Ted Cruz here.
Wants to hurt us, but they're also being spread theological lies. They are being taught replacement theology, which is a lie that the promises God made to Israel and the people of Israel are somehow no longer good. They are no longer valid, that when God made a promise, he didn't mean the promise he made. And instead, it is an argument that the Christian church has replaced Israel and the Jews are no longer God's chosen people, and all of the promises throughout the Bible are now a dead letter. Now, I'll tell you, I was grateful, Pastor Hagee, when you were preaching earlier tonight. You addressed much of this directly and head on, and that is important. I want to call on Kufi. I want to call on the church. This is a growing cancer. A decade ago, when the Democrats saw it rising, they did nothing and they lost their party. I will tell you this, I will not remain silent.
So he says it's a growing cancer. The growing cancer is the fact that many Christians are not supporting Israel in the polls the way that traditionally Christians have in this country, and that's where he's saying it's a growing cancer. This is a huge issue. We talked about in the last couple of podcasts, we've been talking about the fact that after Solomon, that the tribes, the united 13 tribes that were sectioned off once they came in the land, sectioned off like this. These are the sections: Manasseh in the middle here, Asher, Naphtali, Gad, Dan, Ephraim, Benjamin. They were all separated, and every one of these Hebrews at this time, no one would have called themselves a Jew at this time. They were Hebrews. The Hebrews at this time, they all were associated by their tribe, even though they were together as a nation together. They all kept separate and their separate tribes. They were all knew what tribe they came from. They were all associated by their tribes. So the descendants, the offspring of these people, you would have known them by their tribes. In under David, under Solomon, that was the case. Now, when Solomon dies and his son Rehoboam takes over, the tribes split. Now, why did the tribes split? Because they're tribes. I mean, not only were they, because Solomon and David were from the tribe of Judah, and they would have, showing some favoritism towards Judah. Benjamin is where Jerusalem was, so maybe those two tribes were showing favoritism, and the other tribes felt like they weren't being represented. Once you start getting down the line and worshiping other gods, I've been watching that series David, and like I said, these people start worshiping other gods immediately while they're in the wilderness. When Moses goes to the mountain to get the law, they set up a golden calf. They start worshiping other gods immediately. So they start basically turning, just like Moses predicts, just like it says in Leviticus, they started turning from God immediately. So as they started turning from God, that kind of like loosened, the God of their forefathers was the glue that kept them together. So once you start worshiping other gods and acting as tribes, that's why they split. That's why the tribes split. 10 tribes to the north and to the south is what happened. And then when the Assyrians come in and they attack they attack both, but they scatter the northern 10 tribes. I explained to you how, that fit in line with what Moses told them. When you go across River Jordan, you take the land, you start worshiping other gods, you don't keep the terms of the covenant, then God's going to lay waste to you. So that's what, it was divine punishment. The scattering of the diaspora starts in 700 BC when the Assyrians come down and seize Jerusalem and scatter the 10 tribes to the north. We explain how that was divine punishment. I also want to make this clear. You got to understand that when the Assyrians come down and scatter the diaspora and scatter the northern 10 tribes, this is 900 years before Muhammad's revelation. Before Muhammad has his first revelation in the cave with the angel Gabriel. This is 900 years before Muhammad has his first revelation. Why is that important? Because we're talking about the descendants, the offspring of Abraham. All of the promises that were made to Abraham, the covenant with Abraham, that was done, and the promises made were to Abraham, his offspring, his descendants, his seed. Well, Abraham had two sons. He didn't only have one son. He had two sons. He had Isaac and he had Ishmael. Now, all of the promises, it's pretty clear that all of the promises that were given to Abraham, they only went through one son. Only one son inherits all of those promises, and that's Isaac. But Muslims believe, this is part of Muslim theology. They say that they have a connection to Abraham through Abraham's second son, which is Ishmael. This is and Hagar. This is part of Islamic theology, if you don't know that. But so when the scattering of the diaspora happens by the Assyrians and they spread the northern 10 tribes, that's 900 years before Muhammad's revelation. And I just wanted to make that clear because it's very important. All right. So these are the passages that we just looked at. And then this is the passage that we ended last podcast with. This is the covenant of the circumcision. And this is when God makes the covenant with Abraham, the everlasting covenant, the forever covenant with terms. When he does that with Abraham and changes his name and changes Sarah's name, that's in the 17th chapter of Genesis. And we started reading that in the last podcast. Let's read it again. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him and said, I am God Almighty. Walk before me faithful and be blameless. Then I will make my covenant between me and you and will greatly increase your numbers. This means when greatly increase your numbers, make your seed and your offspring and your descendants great. I will greatly increase your numbers. Abram fell face down, and God said to him, as for me and my covenant with you, I will be the father, you will be the father of, as for me, this is my covenant with you. God says to Abraham, you will be the father of many nations. No longer will you be called Abram. Your name will be Abraham. And I was explaining to you that this is very significant what God is doing here by changing his name to Abraham. I was explaining that it's just one Hebrew letter. It's the He letter that he adds to Sarai's name to make it Sarah. This is from right to left. So this is Sarah's name before he changed it, just 3 Hebrew letters, and then he changes it and he replaces it with the He vowel. Same thing with Abraham. Abraham is 4 letters, and then he just adds the 1 letter, the He. The He, all of the Hebrew alphabet, it's phonetic. This was the first use of the word He. You can see if you turn it on its side, it looks like an E. There was no, so He, in the English alphabet is where we get that. And this was the evolution of that letter. So he just added this 1 letter, which the letter represents look, behold, reveal, breath is what that letter represents. So that's what is happening here when he changes his name from Abram to Abraham. For I have made you a father of many nations. I will make you very fruitful. I will make nations of you, and kings will come from you. I will establish my covenant as an everlasting, here it is, everlasting covenant between me and you and your descendants. Right there, verse 7, 17, verse 7, Genesis 17, verse 7. I will establish my covenant as an everlasting covenant between me and you and your descendants as after you for the generations to come, to be your God and the God of your descendants after you. The whole land of Canaan where you now reside as a foreigner, I will give you as an everlasting possession. Here it is, everlasting possession. The whole land of Canaan, which is present day Israel, the whole land of Canaan where you now reside as a foreigner, I will give as an everlasting possession to you and your descendants after you. Not Ishmael, Isaac, your descendants through Isaac, not Ishmael, and I will be their God. Then God said to Abraham, as for you, you must keep my covenant. As for you, those are the terms. Those are the terms of the covenant, of the agreement. As for you, you must keep my covenant, and your descendants after you, for the generations to come, you must keep my covenant. No witchcraft, no idols, none of that, none of that. One God, you only worship one God, and you don't do it through idol worship, like they were doing in Ur, where I brought you out of. That system down in Ur with the ziggurats and all the different gods and idols and all that stuff. No, you must keep my covenant, and your descendants must keep my covenant. It's an everlasting covenant. It's going to be forever, giving you everlasting possession of the land. But you're not going to be in the land and worshiping other gods, is what he's saying. You're not going to be in the land worshiping Baal and worshiping Marduk and all these other gods. You're not going to be doing that. That's what he said. If you do that, then don't even plant food because your enemies are going to eat it. That's what he says. God says to Abraham, for you must keep my covenant and your descendants after you for the generations to come. This is my covenant with you and your descendants after you. The covenant you will keep. For every male among you shall be circumcised. This was a huge thing in the ancient world. People weren't going around circumcising their male sons in Canaan, in Mesopotamia, in the ancient world in Egypt. People weren't doing this. This was a marker. This an uncircumcised penis, and this was his marker for males because Judaism is patriarchal. I mean, I'm sorry to say it, but no, I'm not sorry to say it. That establishes order. Judaism is patriarchal, and God is a patriarchal God. And sorry, it's just the truth. So this wasn't. He didn't need to, even though he does change Sarah's name in this covenant. This is not only a covenant between God and Abraham, but it's God, Abraham, and Sarah. When he gives this part, this marker that no matter where you go, even if the Assyrians scatter you all over the world and the Babylonians scatter you all over the world and the Romans scatter you all over the world, you're still in far lands going to do this. Every one of your male sons, you're going to sacrifice and cut their foreskin. And it's going to be something that is going to be unique, a unique mark that my people, that I'm the God of this unique people, this is going to be the mark, the cutting of the foreskin, the circumcision. It's hugely significant. The 11th verse here, you are going to undergo circumcision, and it will be a sign of my covenant between me and you for the generations to come. Every male among you who is 8 days old must be circumcised. This is significant too, if you understand numerology. Why 8? What's 8 days has to do with? The Sabbath. So God's Sabbath is on the 7th day. That's Saturday. First day of the week, there's 7 days in the week. First day of the week, Monday. Last day of the week is Saturday, which is the Sabbath. That's the seventh day. God created the universe in 7 days. 7 is the number of completion. But what does 8 represent? New beginning. Anyone who knows anything about music and a musical scale, 8 is an octave. 8 is the same as 1. It's the new beginning. It's the start of the new. So I think that's significant as far as the 8th day. But that on every Jewish male is circumcised. They have a gathering, a celebration. It's a huge event for every male to be circumcised on the 8th day of their life. They're born 8 days later, then their foreskin is cut off. And they would have done this no matter where that I asked this. So what I'm saying is understanding where the descendants, the offspring, even though they're scattered, even though the diaspora is being scattered, who has the inheritance from Abraham are the descendants who did this, who cut the foreskin off their male on the 8th day. For the generations to come, male among you who is 8 days old must be circumcised, including those born to your in your household or bought with money from a foreigner, those who are not your offspring. So he says that it's not only are you going to circumcise your offspring, you're going to circumcise every male that is in your camp, slaves, people that are not even your offspring is what he's talking about here. Whether born in your household or brought with money, they must be circumcised. My covenant in your flesh is to be a everlasting covenant. Any uncircumcised male who has not been circumcised in the flesh, I think that's significant too, and you'll see why later, that it says in the flesh. But my covenant in your flesh is to be an everlasting covenant. Any uncircumcised male who has not been circumcised in the flesh will be cut off from his people as he has broken my covenant. So that means you're not keeping the terms. And you'll see that he changes Sarah's name here. God also said to Abraham, as for your wife, you are no longer to call her Sarai. Her name will be Sarah. Again, he adds the same Hebrew letter. I will bless her, and she will give you your son by her, and I will bless her so that she will be the mother of nations, kings of peoples will come from her. So this is why what Muslims believe about Ishmael and Hagar. I mean, God doesn't change Hagar's name. God doesn't make a covenant with Hagar and Ishmael. That's why even though Ishmael is a descendant, is the offspring of Abraham, this covenant is not through Ishmael. Ishmael doesn't have any rights to the promises that God made to Abraham, because it's through Sarah. And you don't know, Hagar is Sarah's handmaid, who Abraham ends up having Ishmael with, and then he has Isaac with Sarah. So he's making the covenant here with Abraham and Sarah. That's why he changes Sarah's name. And the inheritor of the covenant from Abraham comes through Ishmael, not through Isaac. Through Isaac, not Ishmael. So he commands them to sacrifice on the 8th day. There's a episode of Seinfeld where they make fun of this practice. This is the episode with the mohel. I want to play a little bit of this. If you don't remember, have never seen this Seinfeld episode. This is on the 8th day, newborn baby on the 8th day, and this is the ceremony.
Baby, bring me the baby. I need the baby!
I'm not going to let this.
Taylor! Hey, what are you doing? Come back here! Compose yourself! This is a bris! We're performing a bris here, not a burlesque show. This is not a school play. This is not a baggy pants farce. This is a bris. A sacred ancient ceremony symbolizing the covenant between God and Abraham. Or something.
So what I'm trying to get you to understand is that no matter where the people of the scattered 10 tribes or the scattered tribes, the diaspora, the descendants of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, those people, even after the Assyrians scattered them, they still would have kept this practice because that's the covenant. You would have to do this practice of male circumcision on the 8th day if you are a descendant, if you're the offspring of Abraham, because that's part of the covenant. So I think that it's interesting that the Book of Mormon, and we're talking about the Mormons, that there's all kinds of stories, and we're going to go through some of these stories. We'll probably pick this up on Monday and go through some of the many different stories about what happened to the 10 tribes, the lost 10 tribes. The lost 10 tribes, what happened to these tribes when the Assyrians scattered the diaspora? I mean, so there's many different stories and people from all over the world, that say that their heritage and their traditions in Judaism date back to the original tribes all over the world. On every continent, there are Jews that say that they have a tradition that goes back to these 10 tribes. And the Mormons are one of them. That's what I was explaining to you in a few podcasts ago, that the Mormons have a religious tradition that dates back to the original tribes, that the Mormon believe that just before the Babylonian captivity, just before the Babylonian invasion in 600 BC, that members of the original 13 tribes, they got in boats and they came all the way over to North America and South America, and all of the Native Americans descend. This is what Mormons believe, that all the Native Americans descend from these people that came over that were part of the original 13 tribes of Israel. So if that's true, all of these people, the Nephites, the Lamanites, the Jaredites, all these people that came over who were part of the original tribes there in Israel, the kingdom of Israel, the kingdom of Judah, all the Native Americans would have been circumcising themselves. When Columbus came, and when the Spanish came, they would have found all these Native Americans. If the Book of Mormon and the story that they tell is true, that all of the people from the original tribes, 13 tribes in Israel, that some of those people came over to the New World, and those people were the make up all of the Native Americans that were here in the New World. If that's true, they would have been doing the practice of circumcising on the 8th day, because that's part of the covenant. They would have been doing that here in the New World. Let's read this. The Book of Mormon. The Nephites are one of the 4 groups, along with the Lamanites, the Jaredites, the Mulekites, said to have settled in ancient America. The term is used throughout the Book of Mormon to describe the religious, political, cultural traditions of the group of settlers. The Nephites are described as a group of people who descend from or were associated with Nephi, son of prophet Lehi, who left Jerusalem during at the urging of God about 600 BC and traveled with their family to the Western Hemisphere. This is what the Mormons believe. And what I'm telling you is that the Mormons aren't the only ones who have elaborate stories about how they descend from these tribes. So we're going to get into more of the stories that these people have, that other stories, other people, groups. This is what you need to understand, folks. There's about 15.7 million is what it says here, Jews worldwide. 7.2 million Jews live in Israel, and 8.5 million live outside of Israel. You can see here, 7.2 million in Israel. United States has 6.3 million. France has 440,000. Canada has about 400,000. UK just over 300,000. Worldwide, there's tons of Jews. So not all the Jews in the world live in Israel. The majority of Jews live outside of Israel. So could it be that some of the Jews who live in Israel are true descendants of Abraham, offspring of Abraham, that even though they ended up in Europe or wherever, that they kept the covenant, they circumcised their son on the 8th day, and all of that? Some of those people can say that they are descendants, offspring of the original 13 tribes. And then some of the people who are in Israel are not really descendants, offspring of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And then some of the people that live outside, some of the 8.5 million Jews that live outside of Israel, is it fair to say that some of them could be descendants, offspring of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? And some of those people that are calling themselves Jews outside of Israel could also not be true descendants, offspring, seed of Abraham, but they still keep the customs. They still circumcise their sons on the 8th day. They still celebrate the high holidays. It could be a mixture, is what I'm trying to tell you. We're going to get more into this in the next podcast, but I've been watching this series, David, and it's a really good series. It's in its second season now, but it's about the first monarch, or not even the first monarch. He's actually the third monarch. The first monarch the series starts with in the first season is Saul. Immediately, Saul, once Samuel, who is the first prophet of Israel, tells Saul that God rejected him, and he starts going through madness, and he goes and he visits a witch, a witch of Baal. Actually, his family goes, but this is all in the Bible, where he goes to and visits this witch because he's trying to, reverse the fact that Samuel's told him that God has rejected him. So God rejects him. This all happens in the series. It's really good. And then Samuel goes and he anoints David. One thing I noticed about this series is the cast. And I talked about this when I brought this up. I said, look at the way that they cast. I mean, the cast of the House of David, they don't look like this. This is an IDF soldier. They don't look like this. They don't have blonde hair and blue eyes. They don't look like this. No one in the House of David looks like this IDF soldier. No one. And these Jews are Ashkenazi Jews. They're only one group of Jews. There's more Jews in the world. There's more Jews in Israel other than Ashkenazi Jews. That's what I'm trying to get you to understand when I say that there's more Jews living outside of Israel than inside of Israel. And so Ashkenazi Jews are not the only Jews. There's Sephardic Jews. There's Mizraha Jews. There's Belhai Jews. There's all kinds of different Jews. And that's so I think that people get stuck on the Ashkenazi, mostly because, they don't seem like they are indigenous to the region there. Like they would descend from the original 13 tribes. And I noticed that the cast, that the way they cast this show, The House of David on Prime, that, they don't have a lot of Ashkenazi Jews in the cast. I'll tell you that. I find that interesting. So, and that brings us, that's what I was telling you guys about Jack Philby, the MI6 officer that befriended the king of Saudi Arabia, the first King Saud, and they were trying to negotiate a deal to relocate the Palestinians as they were setting up the new nation of Israel in the 1940s, remove the Palestinians and people that are currently there to the Arabian desert. There were plans to try to move them to the Suez Canal or the Suez region, and all that fell through. And when Philby was in exile in Lebanon, that he wrote in his memoir that the true bias of the Arab hostility to Jewish immigration into Palestine is xenophobia, the instinctive perception that the vast majority of Central and Eastern European Jews, Ashkenazis, Central and Eastern European Jews, these Jews, the instinctive perception that the vast majority of Central and Eastern European Jews seeking admission are not Semites at all. Whatever the political repercussions of their settlement may be, their advent is regarded as a menace to the Semitic cultures of Arabia. The European Jew of today and their secular outlook is regarded as an unwelcome intruder within the gates of Arabia. That's what he writes. That's what they're talking about. And that brings us to the Khazar theory, and we're going to get more into the Khazar theory in the next podcast. But this sign, someone posted this sign, and I thought that it fits perfect with what I'm talking about. But this is what a lot of people believe. Israelis are not Israelites. Khazars are not Semites. Ashkenazis are not Hebrews. The Talmud is not the Torah. Yiddish is not Aramaic. The satanic bankers who created the country of Israel in 1948 are imposters. They are not real Jews. All right, so folks, we're going to talk about that in the next podcast. We're going to pick up right where we left off here, because I still have a lot to share. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys on Monday.